Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn one of the important topics of CNS, that is epilepsy. એપિલેપ્સી માટે આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં વાય ખેંચ આંચકી રાઈટ એ બધી ટર્મ્સ યુઝ કરીએ છીએ એન્ડ યુ મસ્ટ હેવ સીન this kind of patients around you in the community somewhere, right? So today we'll learn about epilepsy. This topic will cover in two parts. In today's video we'll learn about basic things about epilepsy, that is the classification of epilepsy, what are the various types, because they are important to learn treatment. Then we'll learn the classification of drugs and basic mechanism of all the drugs, and rest of the things we'll cover in the next video. Okay, so let's start with the topic epilepsy. So epilepsy is a term that is used sometimes, they are commonly, it is interchangeably it is used with this other two terms. There are seizure and convulsion. So sometimes all the three terms are used in place of each other, but actually these three terms are different. So you must know what is the basic difference between these three terms: epilepsy, seizure and convulsion, right? Okay, so first, what is seizure? Seizure is nothing but abnormal discharge from the bunch of the neurons, that is seizure, right? When such kind of repeated attacks occurs, then it is known as epilepsy. And convulsion, that means abnormal body movements, that is convulsion. So when you overlook all these three terms, it simply means that whenever there is abnormal discharge from the neuron has its own impulse discharges which is responsible for body movements or responsible for some activity within the body. When this discharge becomes abnormal, repetitive and abnormal, then it leads to some result. It may be convulsion or may not be convulsion, right? So whenever there is abnormal discharge from the neuron, that particular thing is known as seizure. When such kind of seizure occurs repetitively, that is known as epilepsy. So remember, when there is repeated attack of seizures, then only it is termed as epilepsy. Single attack of seizure which is non-febrile, means without fever, single attack of seizures cannot be termed as epilepsy. Whenever there is repeated attacks of seizure, then only it will be termed as epilepsy. And the body movements that occurs in the epilepsy, right, that particular body movements, repetitive body movements, hand limbs movements, that is known as convulsion, right? So convulsion may be present in the epilepsy, may be absent in epilepsy, right? So epilepsy માં convulsion આવે જ એવું જરૂરી નથી. So differentiate these three terms plus. First, epilepsy, seizure and convulsion. Abnormal discharge from the body, seizure; repeatedly such abnormal discharge, that is epilepsy; and repeated body movements, that is convulsion. Okay, now after knowing this, move to the epilepsy. Now if you want to classify epilepsy, we can classify in two ways. One is seizure based classification and second is syndrome based classification. Syndrome based classification, it is used for the prognosis, but the more common and widely used classification is seizure based classification. You all are aware of this classification. It is in this classification we divide into two types: generalized epilepsy and focal epilepsy. Now the basic difference in these two is, in generalized epilepsy there is bilateral, means there is involvement of both the cerebral hemisphere, right? So both the cerebral hemispheres are involved, and involvement of this both limbs led to generalized epilepsy. While in case of focal epilepsy, usually unilateral, one side of hemisphere is involved and typical area of the brain is involved, that is known as focal epilepsy. Okay, further we can also classify, you can say, this generalized epilepsy into various types and focal epilepsy into various types. Other difference you can also make in this both epilepsy is based on EEG, right, electroencephalogram, like ECG in the heart, here it is EEG for the brain. So this both the types, generalized and focal, they have typical patterns in the EEG. Usually generalized epilepsy has bilateral involvement, while focal epilepsy has a unilateral involvement in the EEG. There are various patterns in the spikes also, but here it is not our you can say area of discussion. Okay, so first we'll discuss about generalized epilepsy, and then we'll discuss about localized, which partial or focal epilepsy. Generalized epilepsy you can divide in this terms, following terms: granular or tonic-clonic epilepsy, petit mal or absence seizure, myoclonic, akinetic, clonic, and tonic. These are the types of generalized epilepsy. Means in all this there will be bilateral brain involvement and typical patterns in the EEG. Even in the each subtypes also there will be specific pattern in the EEG which will help in the diagnosis. Okay, so first, grand mal or tonic-clonic seizures. You all are aware this term. You must have learned this in physiology, tonic and clonic. So in generalized tonic-clonic seizure, it occurs in the sequence. First there will be tonic phase, then there will be clonic phase, and then there will be post-ictal stage. So in tonic stage, as you can see in this figure, there will be extension of the limbs, tone will be increased, and there will be extension of the limbs, stiffening of the limbs, and due to spasm of laryngeal muscle there will be epileptic cry. So that is tonic phase. Immediately after that it will be followed by clonic phase. In clonic phase there will be jerks or the involuntary movements of the both the limbs. So tonic phase followed by clonic phase, and then there will be post-ictal confusion or sometimes coma also. So these are the three stages. An important thing that before all these three phases, it will precede by aura. Means at the beginning there will be aura, means patient will have some kind of warning signs that something is going to happen, and after that this tonic phase, clonic phase, and post-ictal stage will take place. So there is generalized or tonic-clonic seizures, and if this condition persists, if it doesn't stop, continuous tonic-clonic phase will continue, then it will lead to a condition that is known as status epilepticus. Right? Second is absence seizure. Now this absence seizure or petit mal epilepsy, it is usually seen in the children. Here there will be no loss of consciousness, means patient will be conscious, but for a small period, for the you can say sometimes even 5 seconds, patient will be, you can say, in the absence of the consciousness, right? He will not become unconscious, but he will not aware what is happening surrounding to him. So it is known as absence seizure. There will be no aura, means there will be no warning signs. Patient will suddenly develop this, and within a few period patient will be okay, means there will be no post-ictal confusion or coma, nothing like that. So these are the symptoms of absence seizure, which is very difficult to diagnose. It has specific patterns in the EEG. Sometimes absence seizures may have some typical symptoms like lip smacking, involuntary hand movements, or fluttering of eyelids. This kind of abnormal movements may be seen in the absence seizure, but not necessary. It may be completely absence of symptoms also, right? But it lasts for the few seconds and comes suddenly, right? There are also atypical type of absence seizures in which it is slower onset and longer duration, right, which is difficult to treat. Okay, so in generalized we have seen grand mal, tonic-clonic, or petit mal or absence seizure. These two are more important. Other terms: myoclonic seizure, akinetic, clonic and tonic. In myoclonic seizure there will be epileptic myoclonus, means there will be sudden and brief muscle contractions will be there. So suddenly there will be muscle jerks or muscle contraction. It will also have some typical EEG pattern. Akinetic. Akinetic name itself suggests that is atonic, also known as atonic, means there will be loss of tone in some particular postural movement, like say sometimes there will be head drop due to involvement of neck muscles. Likewise there will be some loss of tone. In clonic, typically clonus will be there, means rapid muscle movements only, no tonic phase. In tonic phase there will be only tonic phase, means only extension and stiffening of the muscles will be there. So these are the types of generalized epilepsy. Partial epilepsy we can divide into three types: simple partial, complex partial and partial to secondary. Simple partial, also known as Jacksonian seizure. Now as discussed earlier, in partial there will be unilateral involvement of the hemisphere, so the symptoms may also appear unilaterally. Bilateral involvement may not be there, so there will be unilateral seizures. So in Jacksonian seizures there are two types: Jacksonian motor and Jacksonian sensory. In Jacksonian motor there will be motor symptoms will be there, means there will be muscle movements, unilateral muscle movements will be there, while in case of sensory there will be hallucination or needle and pin like sensation. So sensory involvement will be there, but that is simple partial seizure. Now in complex partial seizure, patient will have you can say partial loss of consciousness may be there in case of complex. Here there will be no loss of consciousness in simple, but in complex partial seizure there may be loss of consciousness, and it is usually involved by some automatism. Automatism means the things happen inside the body which is not known to the patient. Means patient may be doing his regular activities like walking or doing some things, but he may not be aware that he is doing something. After attack he will also not have memory for that thing, right? So it is known as complex partial seizure. Then second is partial to secondary. It is nothing but initially there will be partial phase and it is followed by generalized. So partial mathis generalized side, that is known as partial to generalized. Okay, and in unclassified we have two more types: febrile and infantile. Why we have kept these two in unclassified category? Because we don't have any sufficient data, or we don't have any pattern to fit this in simple in generalized or partial epilepsy. So in febrile seizure there will be it is seen in the children mostly. There will be a phase of illness, means fever will be there, and that fever is associated with the seizure. So every time when there is a fever there will be seizure. So that is typically known as febrile seizure. That's why earlier I told that when seizure is non-febrile and repeated, then you can term it as epilepsy. If the seizure is febrile, means with fever seizure and continuously occurring, then it is not epilepsy but it is febrile seizure, a type of epilepsy of course, but it is generally benign type febrile seizure, and usually with the age it can subside also. Second is infantile spasm, typically seen in infant with the repeated tonic-clonic movements. It can also be treated. Okay, So this classification is very important because all these terms will be continuously used during the uh, drug mechanism of action or drug utilization of drugs. So you must be aware of all these terms. So this was classification based on seizure classification. Second is syndrome classification, which is not much important for us because it is usually used for prognosis, but just for the briefing, it can be divided into idiopathic, symptomatic and cryptogenic. Right? So idiopathic, where there is no cause can be identified except you have some genetic cause. Symptomatic, where you can, it is usually associated with some underlying disorder. When you can identify, then it is symptomatic. And cryptogenic is where that is patient may be symptomatic but the exact cause you don't know, that is cryptogenic. So no need to go into detail of this classification, but it can be used for the prognosis. Once diagnosed, you can use it for the prognosis. Why epilepsy occurs? Causes may be so many. Usually the commonly seen is genetic cause, means there may be some underlying genetic reason which has led to this epilepsy. Other induced causes are also there. For example, brain injury, which can lead to epilepsy. Infections like meningitis, that can also lead to epilepsy. Metabolic disorders like hypoglycemia, that can also lead to epilepsy. Drugs, usually drug itself nahi, but withdrawal of drugs, that can lead to epilepsy. So these are the various causes. But whatever may be the cause, the mechanism is abnormal discharge from the neuron. Okay, so after considering the basic thing about epilepsy, now we'll start the drugs, the basic pharmacology of anti-epileptic drugs. So this is the classification. This picture is from your book KDT. This classification classifies drugs based upon their chemical structure, like barbiturate, hydantoin, succinimide, benzodiazepines, deoxybarbiturate. These are all the drugs classified according to their chemical characteristics. Okay, we'll see all these drugs one by one, but before moving to that, there is one more classification which is based on mechanism. Now this classification is important because this will give you the broad idea of the mechanism of action. Before going to this, I would also like to say that apart from drugs, our body naturally has some anti-seizure substance, right? Why we can say that? Because that is the reason why it stops automatically, right? Once the seizure is started, after the few seconds it stops automatically. So there may be some substance within the body which is stopping that abnormal discharge naturally. So with the research, we have identified that adenosine is the natural substance of the body which is responsible for this anti-seizure activity, and based upon that, researchers continue to find some new drugs also. Okay, now based upon mechanisms, we can classify drugs as drugs enhancing GABA activity and drugs inhibiting glutamate. Now we all know these two neurotransmitters, GABA and glutamate. GABA has inhibitory activity in the neurons, while glutamate has excitatory. So in epilepsy there is abnormal discharge. So what we want to do, we want substance, we want to enhance the substance which is having inhibitory activity. So we have drugs which enhance GABA activity, and we want inhibitory action through the glutamate because glutamate is excitatory, right? So based upon this, we can classify all the drugs in these two types: enhancing GABA activity and inhibiting glutamate activity. Now this figure is from the book H.L. Sharma, and these two figures both from the H.L. Sharma very well describes the mechanism. If you understand this figure properly, you will understand mechanism of action of all the drugs, right? So this figure is showing the drugs which are enhancing GABA activity, right? So first see what happens in normally. This is here you can see GABA. SV2A, it is a vesicle protein. Vesicle this vesicle which contains GABA. So SV2A is the protein of this vesicle. It has some role, we'll discuss later. Now this GABA comes to this presynaptic membrane, released here in the synaptic cleft. Then there are GABA receptors. It binds to the GABA receptors and inhibit postsynaptic activity. After the completion of action, there will be reuptake of GABA, right? And after the reuptake, it is the enzyme GABA transaminase enzyme. That enzyme will metabolite GABA and convert it into SSA, that is succinic semialdehyde, that is the metabolite of GABA. So there is a normal cycle which goes on in the neuron. Now let's come to the drugs which has role, how drugs enhance GABA activity. So first you can say this mechanism. Okay, we'll start with here. There are the GABA receptors. So we have drugs that will modulate this GABA receptors, activity of the GABA receptors. It will activate these receptors, and that's how they enhance the GABA activity. If you remember, we have learned this drugs in skeletal muscle relaxants also, right? Benzodiazepines. So phenobarbital and benzodiazepines are the group of drugs. They will bind and they will inhibit, enhance activity of GABA receptor. So there will be increased binding of GABA and increased inhibitory activity postsynaptically. Okay. Second group of drugs are there. They will inhibit reuptake. The reuptake થાય છે cleft માંથી. They will inhibit reuptake, so there will be increased concentration of the GABA in the cleft. So these are the valproate and tiagabine, right? These are the valproate and tiagabine. They will inhibit reuptake of the GABA. Then third phase come, that is here the transaminase enzyme which is responsible for metabolism of GABA. This drug vigabatrin, it will inhibit this transaminase enzyme and that will lead to increased GABA concentration in the cleft, right? So one more thing I want to tell, that there will be some class of some drugs, they might have multiple mechanisms, right? For example, valproate is acting here also. There will be valproate activity at the channels also, that we'll discuss in the next figure. But it is possible that some drugs may have multiple site of action also. Then third one here is levetiracetam. This levetiracetam, it has a activity on this SV2A protein. It does not act directly on the GABA, but it acts on this SV2A vesicle protein, and it will modulate vesicle in such a way that it will enhance GABA secretion and inhibit glutamate secretion. So that is the activity of mechanism of action of levetiracetam. So these are the drugs acts on GABA activity. Then we have group of drugs which acts on glutamate activity. Okay, so before going to the mechanism, here you can see normally what happens. These are the voltage gated channels, voltage gated sodium channels, voltage gated calcium channels. Through these channels ion entry occurs, and that will lead to impulse. That impulse will transfer this glutamate vesicles to this presynaptic membrane. There will be release of glutamate, and in the synaptic cleft it will act postsynaptically on the two receptors, NMDA and AMPA receptors. You have learned about these receptors in the introduction session, that glutamate acts on NMDA and AMPA receptors, and that's how the activity goes on. Okay, so how drugs act on these various sites? There are group of drugs that will block this voltage gated sodium channels, right? Now what happens in epilepsy, that normally what happens, there will be impulse then there will be resting phase, again there will be next. So during impulsive phase only this channel will be remain open, but in between it will be in the resting phase. But in the epilepsy, as there is a continuous impulse, so there will be no resting phase, continuously this channel remains open. So what these drugs they will do, they will block this voltage gated sodium channels, જેનો resting phase છે એ increase થઈ જશે. So what will happen, the impulse ભલે ઉપરથી આવતા હોય but it will not transmitted further. So this group of drugs, they will block voltage gated sodium channels. In this group we have phenytoin, carbamazepine, valproate, lamotrigine, right? These are the drugs that acts by blocking voltage gated sodium channels. Okay, then we have other group of drugs, they block voltage gated calcium channels, which is of N type, right? There are various types of calcium channels. So here અહીંયા જે channel છે it is N type of N type of voltage gated calcium channel. So the mechanism same, block the channel, block the impulse. Here we have lamotrigine, gabapentin, pregabalin. So you can see lamotrigine blocks both calcium as well as sodium channel, so it has multiple mechanism. Okay, then we have third group of drugs which blocks this NMDA receptors. We have felbamate is the only drug which blocks NMDA receptors, and one more group that blocks AMPA drugs. So NMDA and AMPA, both the receptors are blocked. AMPA receptors are blocked by phenobarbital, topiramate and lamotrigine. Okay, one more types of drugs are there which blocks this CRMP2. Now CRMP2, that is basically a protein, right? That protein is involved in generating some substances which are epileptogenic, means they enhance epileptic activity. This CRMP2, it is known as collapsin response mediator protein, CRMP2. It release some substance like BDNF, NT3. These are the substance which has important role in generation of epilepsy. So what this group of drugs do, they block or inhibit this CRMP2, so they will inhibit these substances which are responsible for causing epilepsy, right? So in this group of drug we have locasamide as the drug which inhibits, but remember these types of drugs can be used adjuvantly, because this is not the sole mechanism by which epilepsy take place. So it can be used adjuvantly, not as a main sort of drug, right? Okay, then we have SV2A, we already discussed levetiracetam. This levetiracetam, it modulates, acts on both glutamate as well as GABA, but modulate in such a way that it will enhance GABA activity. Okay, and the last one is drugs that inhibits calcium channel of T type, which is situated postsynaptically situated. So it will block this channel, and by that it will inhibit postsynaptic impulses. Here we have ethosuximide and valproate. Again I told you earlier that valproate has multiple mechanism of action. So in previous figure also you can see valproate is acting here also, and valproate acts here also. So these are the drugs which acts on glutamate activity and treat epilepsy. Now amongst all this, except this particular mechanism or the drugs using this mechanism, these are used to treat petit mal and absence seizure, because typically calcium channel activity is seen in absence seizure. So this ethosuximide, valproate acting on calcium T channels, they are used to treat absence seizure or petit mal epilepsy. Rest all the drugs are used to treat grand mal and partial seizures. For absence seizure this activity, and rest all for grand mal and partial seizures. Okay, So individual drugs, and that we'll see in the next lecture. So today we have learned about the basic types and what is the basic mechanism and the epilepsy, what are the types of epilepsy, then classification of drugs and mechanism of all the drugs, common mechanism of all the drugs. So if you focus on these two figures, it will be easy for you to remember mechanism of action of all the drugs. So individual drugs and rest of the thing we'll cover in the next video lecture. Thank you.